Come, let us explore how to meditate effectively even if you're restless. Together, let us relaxingly recite. Nothing dispose. And we're going to start right off with an edit. Nothing dispels the disinformation, misinformation, mythology, and superstition surrounding mindfulness and meditation, quite like neuroscience. Let's begin by considering mindfulness. Every time we inhale, we are wired to access our sympathetic nervous system, ensconced within the middle third of our spinal cord. This bad boy has evolved to help us to notice in a very special way. Vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly. Which is quite antithetical to the rigidity and controlling tendencies inherent to concentration. But what have we evolved to notice? That didn't work well. We have evolved to notice perceptions such as seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, smelling, and the like. We have also evolved to notice the full spectrum of human emotions, intentions, cognitions, recollections, and imaginings. If this mindfulness is the natural function of our sympathetic nervous system, If this mindfulness is the natural function of our sympathetic nervous system, then why do we sit down every 12 hours or so to formally practice? Every time we silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this or the verb noticing during our inhalation, we interrupt the habit of our clever cerebral cortex to compete against our sympathetic nervous system. Let's hit wrap text and choose behind text. We interrupt the habit of our clever cerebral cortex to compete against our sympathetic nervous system. And instead we set space for these two to cooperate. With each inhalation, we are wired to notice all manner of things. You know, it seems like it would be best to notice and to move this. This is 108. I'll have to remember that. Here we go. With each inhalation, we're wired to... Yeah, this really does feel... That's convenient. Huh. 1, 2, 3. That's it, cunts. And... here we go. With each inhalation, we're wired to notice all manner of thing. From the internal to the external, from the physical to the mental, from the pleasurable to the painful, from the interesting to the boring, from the glorious to the grotesque. Paste. Okay. What are we to do with all this stuff? Meditate. So come, let us explore the neuroscience of meditation. Every time we exhale, we are wired to effortlessly and automatically access our parasympathetic nervous system, which is divided between the lower third and the upper third of that same spinal cord we mentioned previously. This parasympathetic nervous system has evolved to support our physical relaxation as well as mental release. Of that which we noticed during our previous inhalation, to the point that that which we noticed could feel as non-graspable as a vast empty void. Any good English teacher could remind us that a simile is only as effective as it is relatable. Thus we have to ask the question, what? What is a real-world example of a non-graspable vast empty void? How about the illusion of the infinite azure sky on a bright and beautiful cloudless morn? Which, although compelling to the eye, is non-graspable. Let's put the word looks in here. Which, although looks compelling to the eye, feels non-graspable to the hand. Thus, as we could see, emptiness only makes sense when seen through a flexible worldview that accepts that not all statements are literal. Requiring superstition, blind faith, or pseudo-intellectual mental gymnastics. One might ask if this relaxing and releasing is the natural behavior of our parasympathetic nervous system. Then why bother sitting in mindfulness and meditation every 12 hours or so? Each time we silently and mentally recite the one-syllable verb ease or the multisyllabic verb relax, during our exhalation, we are interrupting the habit of our clever cerebral cortex to actively compete against our parasympathetic nervous system. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Paste. Instead, open space for these two to cooperate in a delightfully therapeutic manner. For some of us, sitting in mindfulness and meditation for about an hour twice daily is absolutely no problem. However, some of us could require a more gradual or hedonistic approach. Thus, sitting in mindfulness and meditation for about 5 minutes once every 12 hours or so could be a very good start. The second week, that could be lengthened to 10 minutes every 12 hours. The third week, this could be stretched out to 15 minutes every 12 hours. Over the course of 12 weeks, one could progress by an additional 5 minutes every week, and thus condition one's body and mind to sit for an hour every 12 hours or so. One of the benefits of this incremental approach is that it could give our body, mind, it could give our body, mind, partner, pets, children, and schedule, an opportunity to gently acclimate to this lifestyle enhancement. Walking in the Buddha's footsteps, we too can master mindfulness and meditation. Having completed our editing as well as lesson, it's time for us to now shift gears. It is Obi-Wan Kenobi Wednesday morning. Come, let us meditate like a Jedi after approximately 30 seconds of housekeeping. This is the 17th Dzogchen Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. For more than 30 years, I have harnessed my autistic special interests as well as my ADHD hyperfocus to spend about 8 hours a day, almost every day, studying, practicing, mastering, and reverse engineering the teachings and techniques of each school of meditation so that I can become your personal, nerdy, neurodivergent kind to nirvana. Welcome, my friends, to Meditate Like a Jedi, which is made possible due to the generosity of viewers just like you. For the remainder of this morning's live stream, we're going to play with the latest iteration of very easy meditation practice text, or sadhana, if you're nasty. So, we've covered a lot of information. Let's reduce this to a teeny tiny nutshell. When we compete against our sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system through active focus and active analysis, not only do we exhaust our prefrontal cortex, but we trigger our amygdala, the seat of both anxiety and aggression, which are antithetical to the peace and love that really make life fabulous. Fortunately, neither the amygdala nor the prefrontal cortex constitute the entirety of our central nervous system. When we silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this during our inhalation, we are cooperating with the sympathetic nervous system ensconced within the middle third of our spinal cord, which has evolved to notice vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly. Additionally, every time we silently and mentally recite the one-syllable verb ease during our exhalation, we wind up harmonizing with the function of our parasympathetic nervous system divided between the lower third and the upper third of that same spinal cord. This parasympathetic nervous system has evolved to support both physical relaxation as well as mental release during each, to the point that which we noticed during our previous inhalation could fleetingly feel less stressful, less permanent, and even less defining. So let's sit as comfortably and sustainably as we can and practice. Now, the moment you have a specific question about Buddhist philosophy or meditation, do not hesitate to type your question in great detail in the chat window. For I tend to check for questions approximately once every 15 minutes or so. Let's practice. Oh, I forgot to mention, by cooperating with our sympathetic as well as parasympathetic nervous systems, we calm the anxiety and aggression of our amygdala, as well as stimulate the empathy of our anterior cingulate gyrus. The prefrontal cortex is not our enemy. The prefrontal cortex is like a sprint. The autonomic nervous system is like a jog. There's a time and place for each. The more we cooperate with our autonomic nervous system, the more our choices, utterances, and deeds can flow from centered spontaneity. The more we will know, the more we will intuit how and when to use our prefrontal cortex in the most sustainable way. Some people use the term presence, and they think it means they're supposed to contrive an analog of mindfulness. No. It means we're supposed to be authentic with what we feel in the present moment. So regardless of what emotion we feel, we're supposed to be honest with it. Be there with that emotion without indulging it or repressing it. Simply noticing it and relaxing into it in harmony with the cycles of our breathing. There is a myth that mindfulness means we're concentrating on sights, or concentrating on sounds, or on emotions, or intentions, or thoughts, or sensations, and that we're ignoring everything else, that we're noticing this place and not another place. No, that's concentration. Mindfulness means noticing whatever comes up, noticing vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly. Whatever comes up. Whether it's for the past, the present, or whether it's a fantasy concerning the past or the future. Just notice. We're already wired to do it. All we have to do is harmonize with the inner workings of our sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. It takes great courage to question our assumptions, to question what we've been taught and start over again. Consider, if you will, the legend of the Buddha. He started over approximately 5 times. He started over when he left the palace. He started over when he met his first teacher. He started over when he met his second teacher. He started over when he lived with the ascetics. He started over when he left the ascetics or was abandoned by the ascetics. Let us exercise the courage to question our assumptions and what we've been taught. Consider, if you will, the metaphor of this naked woman, the color of a cumulus cloud. Her nudity reminds us of vulnerability, for the key to mindfulness is to notice vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly in harmony with our sympathetic nervous system. Consider now her partner, the color of the sky. He reminds us that every time we relax into our exhalation, whatever we noticed during our previous inhalation could feel as if it was as non-graspable as a vast empty void, like the illusion of the infinite azure sky on a bright and beautiful cloudless morn, which although could look tantalizing to the eye, feels non-graspable to the hand. Their beauty reminds us that the highest love is spontaneous, uncontrived, and the effortless byproduct of mindfulness and meditation. A delicious benefit of mindfulness and meditation is the fact that our choices, utterances, and deeds could flow with the centered spontaneity, whose centeredness is symbolized by the stability with which this individual sits, and whose spontaneity is symbolized by the abandon with which she sports in tantric union. The most efficient way to cooperate with our sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems is to silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this every time we feel air enter or leave our nostrils. Enter our nostrils, and to silently and mentally recite the one-syllable verb ease each time we feel air exit our nostrils. This path is easy and could be mastered in as little as a week. We don't do this all day long, just when we sit. That's enough. If you practice once every 12 hours or so, that's enough. There is a great big ugly lie that a Buddha doesn't feel certain emotions. They don't feel desire. They don't feel dread. They just feel nothing but peace. But that's a lie of patriarchy. There are people who make lots of money and receive lots of power by crushing other people's spirits under the burden of impossible goals. There are people who deliberately twist the Buddha's teachings, and there are people just not smart enough to recognize that not every statement is literal. There are similes, and there are metaphors, and there are hyperbolic statements. Some of these people are sincerely ignorant. Some of them are just deceitful. And in every spiritual tradition, you will find bullies who set impossible goals to crush the spirits of those who are enthusiastic. Selflessness simply means that as we relax into our exhalation, whatever pride we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could fleetingly feel a trifle less permanent, a trifle less tangible. That's all. Being free from desire doesn't mean we feel no desire. It means we are not controlled by desire. It means when someone annoys us in traffic, we don't commit vehicular assault. We're able to process what we feel. And the easiest way to process is in cooperation with our autonomic nervous system. This is not the stuff of conspiracy theory or paranoia. In every arena of human contact, whether it's religious or spiritual or secular, whether it's vocational or recreational, there are some people who can't help themselves. They will always choose to be rigid instead of flexible. They will always choose to be frightened instead of loving. They will always choose to be superstitious instead of rational. They will always choose to be controlling rather than laid back. There are some people who just are conditioned, simply conditioned to be elitist instead of egalitarian, competitive instead of cooperative, cryptic instead of lucid, cruel instead of kind. There are people who consider themselves spiritual leaders or, psychologists or physicians who think it's their job to be cruel, to deny others the benefit of the doubt, to keep others in line. That's simply their amygdala barking. We don't have, and although we all have an amygdala, we do not need to be controlled by it. That's the liberation the Buddha offers us. To feel an emotion without being a slave to the emotion. The producer of the Dick Van Dyke Show had a son, a 13-year-old son, 14-year-old son, who was a cast member. And one day, Mary Tyler Moore was quite upset. She approached the producer and said, "Your son just smacked my ass." And so he pulls his son over to the side and said, Mary Tyler Moore said, "You gave her tush a potch." And he said, "Yes, she has a very nice tush." And the producer said, "My son, to recognize a nice tush without touching a nice tush is what it means to be a man." Penitentiaries, well, Penitentiaries have a large population of men who never learned to observe their desire or observe their rage without being controlled by it. Cooperating with our sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems can be a marvelous tool. Many centuries ago, a teacher explained, "You shall know a fruit by its tree, or you shall know a tree by its fruit. You will not pick figs off of a pomegranate tree." Similarly, if our teachers are rigid and cranky and uptight, we follow their advice, how can we be any different? If our teachers are manipulative and coercive and deny us the benefit of the doubt, if we follow in their footsteps, how can we be any different? Find a teacher who's a combination between your parent on a good day and your elder sibling on a good day. Or in other words, simply find a teacher whose techniques work for you quickly. And if they don't work for you and you ask the teacher for clarification, if they refuse to give you clarification or they can't give you clarification, then find a better teacher. The fourth enlightenment factor is joy. The Buddha taught joy is not a product of enlightenment, but a tool to experience enlightenment. If your teacher is not joyful using his techniques, how will you be joyful using his or her techniques? Rituals and traditions are a brick-lined dead end masquerading as a shortcut. Rituals and traditions might make us feel very, very spiritual, but the things that make us feel are just an analog for the real thing. Back in the 70s, there was a Coca-Cola commercial where they sang, "Ain't nothing like the real thing, baby." There ain't nothing like peace. Ain't nothing like love. Can't force it. There is no substitute. Many an armchair philosopher has watched the antics of children and shaken their head, asking the rhetorical question, why are kids in such a hurry to grow up? Why can't they be content to be kids? Because of evolution. Play is designed to hasten maturation. We see that in every complex life form. It's how evolution works. It's how our genes work. So there's nothing wrong with children playing melodramatically and being adults. That's what they evolved to do. One of the great things about child's play is you get to wear every mask. The hero, the victim, the fool, the villain, the narrator. And hopefully, through trial and error, we learn where the greatest satisfaction comes from. You have taken your first step into a much larger world. If you feel that I have earned it, you could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could even help support this channel. In approximately 11 hours, I would very much like to return to lead today's evening meditation class as well as group practice. And if you are as geeky as me, may the Force be with you always.